Go. Good morning. This is Coffee with the Summerland Kids. I'm Jerico Woggon. This is Aaron Riggs over here. And it is Tuesday, August 20th. Summerland weather today. 60 degrees currently, 83 with a high.
That's
The normal.
hot for Summerland.
Yeah, 83 day. I can imagine with the sunny, it's like an ever-changing group of people that go to the beach in Summerland. There's some people that are at least, walk the dogs. They have the routine. It's a beautiful beach and do all that, And I think there's a lot of sand extreme weather situations, so that's kind of nice.
Yeah. It's
Yeah. So yeah.
So you're setting up for the auction, huh? The estate sale.
Yeah, working on the estate sale. It's interesting. What is wish I could pull a Big Lebowski. There's a lot of pieces to the puzzle um, involved in these things. Family members and what else? Organizations like property management and I guess you'd say the um, estate sale manager, which is so. I just have to definitely have to zip it and let the people who are in charge, you know. Uh, so sometimes less is more. Um, be some like coming together, a meeting of the minds, because when there's these unforeseen things, you got to be very tactful. She's learned something um, for future. She knows she's going to recreate a new contract or like that additional thing to her contract that states that if wild card situation that doesn't allow her to do her job, then she's got to get she can, you know, still pay her people essentially from that specific, so there is sometimes those unforeseen circumstances. I did have a friend who had a client um, with a very ambitious project dealing with fashion, like a creative fashion creation, um, and then what ended up happening is the person kept on demanding almost like a deadline, but like essentially almost like an unattended situation. So she actually brought someone else in to help her, and they achieved their goal. I want to say of creating this project, but then when it came to pick up payment due on pickup, the people essentially like were paying. So she's like, hell no, it's not gonna go. So, you know, that's a little bit different, in terms of like costume stuff. But sometimes it's challenging. If you don't have your ducks in a row perfectly, another friend essentially he folded his whole company because that he probably creatively created. But then again, when it hey, the people are like fumbling or something, you know. So it's challenging sometimes.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
any industry. It could be like you're saying in the fashion industry or the estate sale or construction or auto mechanics. And auto mechanics have the title lien. So if they don't get paid, they can sell the car, and a lot of times they'll just sit on the mechanic's lot for days. I know that contractors can do a title lien on the house too if you don't pay your contractor.
Yeah. And I learned about that too on the lien thing. Um, and it doesn't cost very much, I guess, to put a lien on something, and it just stops the selling it, I guess, and like with cars or with houses, a lien, if the person tries to sell a property, the people that are dealing with the paper see that there's a lien on, they got to take care of that matter prior to the sale. Yeah, challenging stuff sometimes. You just got to be really on your game. That knowledge and having gone through different situations, always sort of like, a little bit edgy, when it came to the latter a payment on site when I arrived. Based on my track record of installation and completion and all that stuff, when you have all the components and you've been preparing for a month or two on the project, let's say, or at least, sometimes 50% upon completion. I mean, I think that would be, I pretty much pay just when I pick it up, but the numbers not very big numbers. I mean, imagine if I ordered a $5,000 engine or something like that to be put in, is it on the motor, and then and then a completed payment pickup. That would be probably common. So ordering stuff on eBay or offline, we're paying up front, essentially prior to purchase or during, and then we're waiting for delivery. So there's always
Yeah, on eBay, it's kind of nice because they have the ratings, to where if you get like a low rating, that'll affect your selling. And so, like, if you don't deliver or if you deliver a faulty product, a lot of times it's really easy to get a refund because they don't want negative reviews. I know that contractors and stuff will do that too. Like, okay, so if you're doing this big project, maybe you'll get a certain amount up front for materials, and then at each checkpoint, okay, I got the concrete done, I get so much. I got the framing done, I get so much. Rather than letting it go to the end,
Yeah.
But that's part of business, part of the risk of business. I guess no risk, no reward. You're going out on your own. It's different than, like you're working for this lady, and like you're saying, if there's a wild card or something comes up that causes issues and she doesn't get her money, she still has to pay you, as an employer. So yeah, there's some risk.
Yeah, and that's the thing with my friend in Los Angeles. Say quite less than what we're dealing with on our project currently, but she's in trouble to pay her employee, a person that was helping her assist in creating this garment. It's a really tough, challenging situation for her, because if you don't have the financial back, savings or the credit or all that to back it up, and my old boss, he usually had enough what he called irons in the fire. We'd always have a number of cars in the shop and a number of cars, handful one. So there was, it was sure thing. It was never a real challenge. He would make it up on his own end, on the back end, in his own accounting later. But hey, the payment's consistent with employees, so that was always good with him. Yeah. So it's a challenge. I mean, sometimes when you have ambitious goals, my grandfather, I just wanted to really fire it up and sort of like show face, show enthusiasm, show that I'm serious on J-Bra, to help me with that. And I came out of pocket myself. A classic businessman I used to deal with in Santa Barbara who owned a restaurant bar. Like always, we sitting down in the booth. And I can distinctly remember him saying, "It's all good money out of pocket for me." So it's like, So as long as you're paying for everything and you're bringing the DJ, you're bringing the security, you're bringing all these things. Good, So that was he would he'd make money at the bars and all his necessary bells and whistles covered. So as long as I brought all the people, everything was great. So just a classic guy. That as long as there's no money out of pocket for me, we're good. So
Yeah, it could be the small business or even like the big business. There was that thing with the SpaceX, where they're trying to do their launch and get their returned rockets and whatnot. And it was like down to the wire, down to the last launch, where even a billionaire like Elon Musk, is coming out of pocket to make sure these things work, and he doesn't have no payoff unless it works. And it's like a
right.
trip because I got a friend of mine who's like a handyman, and there'll be sometimes where his clients will, maybe not pay him all at when they're supposed to, and so he'll be struggling just to get gas money to get to the next job so he can make it through the week until that client can
Yeah,
pay, and it's
right.
a lot of risk of entrepreneur and business,
Uh,
but it can be
yeah,
rewarding.
right. No, totally. And I think sometimes people are either like playing it, or they're genuinely, maybe they're waiting on a paycheck or something to pay. Feel for the handy guys, because there's a lot of you're right in front of the client. Sometimes I got asked yesterday, do I want to do this thing? It's like, this client is someone who'll probably call you for a 1 day a week or one day a month. They'll have you out, but I'm like, I'm not that guy. I mean, I can do it on my own, but I'm just not interested in putting myself in a position where it's on you, and it's all got to be perfect. I mean, I've done it. When it comes to working individual clients, you got to have your rate set up. You got to have your payment plan be perfectly in alignment. And you really have to have your game to be doing that. And some local businesses here do that. There's one, they do disaster mitigation. So they basically help people who have a flood in their basement, whatever the issue is, that they'll rush out there and they'll get it done. And their trucks are branded forms, and they're like polished, And then he also and they show up on time. They get the job done, and you're like, cool. It just does what they say they're going to do. You give them a deposit. They boom, boom, boom. Everything's perfect. Great. Thank you. That's kind
Yeah,
of,
like with those disaster cleanups or like restoration type stuff. You definitely have to have a little bankroll because a lot of times your paycheck doesn't come in for weeks or even months later because you're dealing with an insurance company.
oh,
So
well, that part. Yeah.
even though you're going to get paid, it's maybe not for a few weeks or even a few months out after the job is complete. So you definitely got to be able to carry the overhead, whether that's employee wages
Yeah.
or fuel or materials or rent on a
Totally.
location, like a business location. Um, it's definitely
Yeah.
when I was doing my vending machines, it was interesting because I was able to get it on credit, the actual equipment. And how did I make my payment? Well, I went and collected the vending machines and paid that credit bill, which was kind of nice. I guess leveraging credit is a way a lot of businesses do it. If they're getting like a business loan to cover the overhead for those 2 or 3 months where they're waiting to get that big paycheck for all those jobs that they did complete, for the insurance to process and everything. Um,
Yeah.
but there's definitely some risk involved when you're starting your own business. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
No, those insurance companies, in the automotive industry, especially in body shops, they're really sharp with with what they do, because they have it send in a jar and then they write a sheet on it essentially, and sometimes they cut a check right away to the body shop. What ends up happening is they have to write supplements, they call them, because they insurance adjuster didn't find, and then so you're always, I think when you're in that business communication with the insurance company, and the dialogue is kind of repetitive. Probably get your mojo on in terms of how that goes.
Hello, hold on. I got.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Hi, baby. Okay, I'm on my podcast. I love you. Right. That was my girlfriend. She's got the bunny going to get it fixed. Going to get it.
That's a big deal. That's cool.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I guess rabbits can get kind of weird, and
Males.
yeah, he's a male, so he's got to get his cut fixed.
That's I think my mom had him fixed, and so but he's still to jump and go. He wants to get out of the sanctuary and go run around or something. So that's always.
Oh yeah, well you can't really stop the cats from doing that, but what the cats will do is they'll start marking everywhere.
Oh right.
And spraying in the house, and we don't want that.
Right.
So we had both the cats are fixed, and then with the bunny, they can kind of do the same thing, get territorial and kind of aggressive if you don't take care of it. And so he's at that right age where it's time to get him fixed, and hopefully he mellows out a little bit. And it's kind of interesting because him and the cat, I guess they'll play or fight or play fight, and I just don't like to see the aggression in house.
Right. Yeah. Right. Hey, do they ever get those big fires put out? In California, I haven't heard much about that lately. I guess.
Yeah, they had the what do they call it?
What was that one? I don't know.
The lake fire, I think.
They got the one. They got it out, and then there was one that was apparently really. It's not on the news anymore, so at least I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, it that's what happens, when it's going there. Oh, it's news. Look there, don't have no containment, and then next thing you know, they get a little ahead of it. Oh, 10% containment, 20% containment, and that's usually when you see things start really picking up as far as the containment. And once they get it 90% or 100% contained, then it's not on the news anymore. That was a fire, so it's not really heightened news. Which is interesting. The news cycle is always interesting to me. Of course, you got the weather and the local news, but then it always seems like there's always something going on in the news. International or some kind of big thing or some holiday or some event or protest. That seems to be the big thing on my news feed these days. A lot of protests. Everyone's protesting this and protesting that, and sometimes it's funny, I was watching this one where the guy he just had a t-shirt, right, that said whatever. He had the two different presidents t-shirts. So he put the one president's on and then going to the other protest. So he's supporting Trump.
No way.
Biden rally. But then he put the Biden shirt on and went to the Trump rally. And I just find that kind of confusing and entertaining, but
that's just the classic. That's almost like the whole thing in a nutshell, really. It's just kind of like in perspective, because it's also you just don't know if those people are like paid, like hey, casting call, that whole, how they're hiring extras, or that whole thing, so deployed to like throw off the plot or something, like
Oh
let's
yeah.
let's
It's definitely a thing, you
scrub the
know.
plot. Yeah.
It's definitely a thing. I don't know. You were in LA. I don't know if you've ever picked up those gigs where you basically get paid to be either an extra, like you're saying, I'm just standing around being an extra body in this movie,
Yeah.
or paid audiences actually is a
Oh,
thing, you
right.
know, to where you're getting, you know, whatever it is, 50 or $100 to go and sit in a live studio audience. And it's kind of funny because I've been to a couple of those, and there's a guy that comes out and tries to get the whole audience amped up. Come on, everybody, when this funny, laugh. And even if it's a little funny, just laugh, laugh, laugh. And then they'll
Okay.
throw
Wow.
out like treats like caramel popcorn or gift cards and stuff. And if
Wow.
you get his attention, you get like a bonus gift card. But it's a trip because, you know, here you go. You show up at the studio, you go sit in an audience, you watch the whole thing go down, and you're getting paid for that.
Wow.
You know, it's just kind of interesting. You know how the movie studio. Where I don't know if you've ever done that when you were down in the city, but
Yeah. Yeah. I worked on a basically like art department or production. I remember one time I was going to pick up stuff, pick up chairs, or going to different places in the city to find things that they needed. I did one time. I think it was set up for Cirque du Soleil. I don't know if it was set up or tear down, but we were required to wear steel-toed boots, and we were literally just like, the Egyptians. One of my old bosses used to say, like, let's get together and lift this big item and move it across the shop. So we were literally like, it was just 10, 12, 15 guys together lifting this object and moving it, putting it on a truck. Definitely had like, what do you call it, supervision for all of us to, be through the process. And it was just, they obviously needed just a lot of hands. And so that was a cool, I want to say like corporate union type, or it was hired very like payroll check, very official style, how they handled it.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
trip, you know, because you know, we're talking about how you got to cover the overhead in business,
Yeah.
and like that's a big risk doing a movie. I mean, they have what, $10 million budgets or more on some of these movies,
Yeah.
and so you got to put all that money. The producers or whatever have to put up all that money for everything, and you know, hopefully a year or two down the road they get the movie finished and they get it released, and hopefully it makes a profit. You know, sometimes you hear these big budget movies flop and they're like, oh, we didn't make that much money, or you know, like franchises like a part two or part three of a movie, they're like, oh yeah, this movie did really good, let's do a sequel. You know, and then now all of a sudden that second movie has a, you know, huge budget because the first one did so big. But you know, it's just like any other business. There has to be someone to take that risk, someone to foot the bill during the process where everything's getting billed. I just think that Hollywood's a trip, you know, just like you're saying, these paid actors
Yeah.
or these paid audience
Yeah. Paid
members.
actors.
Kind of one of the funniest things is some of these comedians I know down there. That's their gig. If they're not doing a comedy show, they're off picking up a spot in an extra thing or a studio audience. I actually did a show. It was kind of funny. It was one of those judge shows. I think it was Judge Joe Jackson or Judge Judy, one of those type things. And it was funny because they pick you out and then they put you in a room and they're like, okay, you guys make up the script. You guys tell us what's going on. Here's the general idea of what's going on, but you guys make up the script. And they give you some food, you know, there's some commissaries that you're in there, and then you film, and then, you know, who knows how long it takes for them to get it on TV. But that was one experience that I had that was pretty fun doing that.
Right.
Another experience, you
Huh.
know, it was a sitcom, you know, so basically it was a friend of mine's like, oh, I know this person, they need studio audience. So we waited in line, and, you know, they took all our names and information. We went into the studio, they filmed the TV show, and then we left and they gave us a check.
Oh,
It was a pretty interesting process.
nice. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so there is some that do what is it called? Pay on the daily, which that's always nice to get, and then it's helpful because otherwise, you're waiting on a check and you can't get lost in the mix. But when you do it enough, that's why you said like your friends in the comedy thing every day or being on and going someplace to be on location and get paid. That's because LA, it is like a lot of pay to play. I want to say constant like daily loop of this same sort of hey, the rent's got to be due every month, so you better get your game on quick. It's like running style and just don't stop.
Oh yeah, and the
Thankfully,
rent's not cheap, and yeah, a lot of times
yeah.
it is pay to play, like the comedians and stuff. It's not always a paid gig. You gotta, I guess, learn the ropes and get your sea legs on. And some of the places, it's actually they charge you. They charge the comedian
Oh,
to get up on
oh,
stage.
wow.
Whether it's a 2 drink minimum or a $10 fee
Okay,
for 5 minutes of stage time. Um,
funny. Wow.
So,
Yeah,
it does take a little bit of
yeah,
hustle
that's
to get your name out there.
right. Yeah, and then on the artistic side, um, they're renting spaces to artists. One person will, um, make an arrangement with the landlord, and they'll pay the rent space up, and it's of course non-live. It's just a art studio space, let's say, or office/studio space, and then they make a little money to be a little bit, the per square foot amount that the head honcho is paying to the landlord is one number, and then when you break the space up and then charge accordingly for each space, that person's making a little bit of money. So it's there is management involved on all the levels, but I think a lot of the old nightclubs like the Whiskey and what is it, the Rainbows have like legacy owners. That's really cool. They've been there forever, and that's awesome with ship and old management. But sometimes those old and owners, they let other people run it for them, and they get a cut. Like or hiring a company to do the booking, of all the by a separate group or a separate individual who's doing those. So there's a little pressure on them in some ways, but it's also too like to play every night or whatever performances or whatever you're doing. I mean, the goal, of course, a lot of people to come always. That's the hey, bring the people to the club, and it's these days it's because it's I want to say it's easier, but it's also what you got to promoting like we talked about, like the internet, Facebook. It's like Facebook's also pay to play. Like when someone's paid Facebook to get their post maybe seen a little bit more. So that's a thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it goes from, everywhere. I mean, even thinking about like farmers markets, somebody's got to rent the parking lot and pay somebody and organize it. And then each vendor has to pay for their spot. Um, but yeah, it's,
Yeah.
that's the role
Absolutely.
of the business, and it's important that business, because if it wasn't for
Yeah.
business, there wouldn't be much, going on as far as availability of the economy and stuff.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's the world today, making money. That's the whole thing. Anyways, well, good seeing you, man.
All right, bud. You
I'll
have
let
an
you know
awesome
what
day
the
at
schedules.
work.
You too. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, man. Cheers.